let's try to understand the market split by the type of equipment, consumables, or services within bioprocessing market. The equipment, though capital intensive, is a one-time purchase and it constitutes to around 25% of the market. Major equipment include bioreactor, chromatography, resins, uh, and other centrifuges or and other such equipment. Consumables, though, have a lower price compared to equipment. They are of recurrent use and used frequently almost in every batch, and hence the consumables constitute around 60% of the market. Services constitute around 15% of the market, though high value per project, but less outsourcing or less than the equipment or consumables, and hence it constitutes around 15% of the market. So if you try to understand the market in terms of the end product, which are produced using bioprocessing workflow, monoclonal antibodies constitute 40%, followed by vaccines because of large scale manufacturing. Cell and gene therapy continues to grow and occupies significant share of around 18 to 20%, whereas others, including other recombinant proteins, other fusion proteins, constitute less than 20% of the market. So all blockbuster biologic drugs or many of the monoclonal blockbuster biologic drugs or monoclonal antibodies such as Humira and others, and increasing use after COVID, there is an increasing research on mRNA and other viral vector type of vaccines, which creates demand for these bioprocessing technologies. Of course, most of the biological pipeline, many companies are doing research, or many companies have pipeline with respect to cell and gene therapies, including CAR, autologous or allogenic therapies, and it constitutes a significant share of around 18 to 20%. In terms of the market, when we segment by end users, of course, biopharma companies still holds most of the production facilities, in-house production facilities. They produce themselves all the biologics, MABs, and vaccines, and they constitute around 60% of the market, whereas CDMOs constitute around 30%. Major CDMOs, Lonza, and other CDMOs have been uh, uh, supporting biopharma companies in producing these biologicals, and they are increasing their manufacturing capacities with respect to these biologicals or biosimilars, and they constitute around 30% of the market. Academia, though, they contribute for small scale production for experimental therapies or early phase trials, and others include than 5% of the market. The biopharma and CDMO constitute around 90% of the bioprocessing market. If you try to understand the demand for bioprocessing technologies across the phase of drug development, of course, commercial scale constitutes more than 70% because of the production in large volumes and complying to the regulatory compliant regulations, and uh, needed more equipment and consumables to produce such a uh, high scale of the drug product. Whereas clinical uh, medium scale production for supporting clinical trials and uh, complying with the GMP operations constitutes around 20%, whereas preclinical, it's very small scale operations on early stage research, proof of concept, mostly proof of concept studies, requires minimal bioprocessing resources. So in terms of the end products, as already discussed, monoclonal antibodies, they constitute majority of the biologicals, followed by vaccines, cell and gene therapies. And of course, there are other recombinant proteins or other modalities, which are protein-based, or hormones, which also create demand for these bioprocessing equipment or technologies.